Today I'm going to tell you the story of the Candy Man, or as he so once loved to be referred to, as Mr. Jelly Belly. Did you know the developer of the world-famous Jelly Belly jelly bean regrets the day he ever invented them because they ruined his life? A documentary premiered at the 2010 Sundance Film Festival and tells the story of David Klein, the true inventor of the Jelly Belly jelly bean, and received rave reviews as well as continued success at other film festivals and was featured for some time on Netflix. Also featuring Weird Al Yankovic, the Candyman tells the faded story of David Klein and his once beloved confection. I will summarize for you the rise of the Jelly Belly jelly bean, the fall of its father, and why I strongly believe you should never again purchase another jelly bean. David Klein was a UCLA graduate of law who worked with his uncle selling Famous Dave's popcorn in order to pay his law school tuition. But David knew that his true passion was in the candy business, and after graduation from the top of his class, never practiced a single day of law. As a self-proclaimed creative individual, David is a man who prefers to take the back roads instead of the freeway, so he does not limit the possibilities of his experiences each day. David says in the documentary, in life, you need only be a genius for 15 seconds, and then you run with it. And that's just what David did. In his 15 seconds, he gave us the world-famous Jelly Belly jelly bean. While watching Happy Days and having a phone conversation, David presented the idea of revamping the boring, single-flavored jelly bean as a candy with unique and specialized flavors, and was made without starchy tasting animal byproducts such as gelatin. To Cal Lieberman. Lieberman was the owner of Grave Nut and Candy Company and would assist David with his brainstorm that he should jot it down on a paper plate, as he feels that paper is lost too easily and paper plates are more fun to throw. David then contacted candy manufacturer Herm Ronalds, owners of Herm Goetz Candy Company, and presented his idea. Herm, a third-generation Candyman himself, who made famous the candy corn, spoke with David in that late-night conversation, and thus was born the famous Jelly Belly jelly bean. Production started with 5 original flavors, including root beer and green apple, and they were a huge flop. David could not give away his expensive gourmet jelly bean at the time because they were more expensive per pound than a gallon of gas in the 1970s. Jelly Bellies debuted in a corner of an ice cream parlor named Fulman's, and they sat there and they grew stale. Until David one day rigged a publicity stunt that soared the Jelly Belly into its current day infamousy. Staging a fake interview with fake customers, David published the article in the paper, and after that, the ice cream parlor had to answer the phone as Jelly Belly, as it was all anyone wanted to get their hands on. In the 70s, when excess and choice were becoming a way of life, and the expensive gourmet jelly bean with its vibrant colors became a status symbol, even President Ronald Reagan became a huge fan after he used the little confection to kick a pipe-smoking habit. The White House would purchase 60 cases a month to not only give away, but stock Air Force One with. Jelly Belly was credited with changing the Americans' perception of the current president. But soon, David would discover his partnership with the ice cream store owner would be an ill-fated business decision, as Fulman's would betray David and his magic bean. Fulman's attorney, upon finding out the Jelly Belly trademark was not registered, encouraged Fulman to apply for it and eventually get the California trademark on the name Jelly Belly. Fulman then demanded $64,000 a year in revenue in order to allow David to continue to use the new trademarked name, Jelly Belly. Cal Lieberman wrote the contract that Fulman signed without legal representation, leaving out one little word, yearly. Upon receiving his last installment of the $64,000, Fulman then discovered his money train had come to an end. In another ill-fated business decision, David's mother-in-law called him in desperate need of help. In David's generous nature, he listened to her tell him of her husband's loss of the lease on their store, and their son was enrolled to begin at Stanford University, and they needed immediate income. To help his father-in-law, David traded half interest in Jelly Belly to Cal Lieberman for their second nut and candy store location in San Marino, California, for income. Desperate to help his family, Cal, having half interest in the company, cemented the bean's future to go on without its creator. David holds no ill will towards Cal, as he feels that Jelly Belly would never have made it off the ground without his financial backing and support. Soon after, David and his bean were featured in the People magazine article with a photo of David, poised in a bathtub, covered in Jelly Belly jelly beans. In this tub of Jelly Belly jelly beans, David's entire top half was exposed, including his very hairy chest. The manufacturer, upon seeing this photo, felt it was disrespectful in the representation of the candy. From that point on, David says the relationship between himself and the manufacturer was never the same again. As from then on out, the candy manufacturer preferred to deal with Lieberman. Production was at an all-time high, and distributors would expect a year wait for deliveries for orders that they had placed, and the manufacturer was looking for a way to expand production without the bean's father. And here's where our story gets very sad. Herm Ronald, owner of the now named Jelly Belly Manufacturing Company, called David and said they were coming to town. David said, "Okay, I'll pick you up at the airport." Harm said, "No, you don't understand. We are coming to town." A term that David would later learn to understand in the industry meant, "I'm coming for your company and I'm not leaving without it." In a hotel room, Herm, David and company, and after a few hours, David was guilted into selling Jelly Belly Jelly Bean Company to Herm for $4.8 million, paid out in monthly installments of $20,000 a month. Cal received half of this. Herm did this by telling David he would halt production and put hundreds of employees out of work, jeopardizing their families' livelihoods if he didn't agree to sell. Herm left with a contract and sole ownership of Jelly Belly trademark. Herm later admitted to David that had he not agreed, he would have continued production under the same formula that David created, but a different name, knowing David would sell, but eventually run out of money due to legal fees and be forced to sell anyway. Although Cal got half of the money, at this time, it is all gone. David has spent his life trying to reinvent the Jelly Belly jelly bean. We can even credit him for the 80s craze of sour candies, as he produced a sour licorice, the first of its kind. So while financially ruined, David was still crushed from being cut off from his creation. He says he is the best kept secret in the candy industry, and when told by his friends if he had been smarter, he would have been a rich man. David just shrugs and says, what's money? The Candy Man is now an individual who deals with bouts of depression and reclusion, but is still truly addicted to nothing but the love and loyalty he gets from others when he can help them and mold them. A man so generous, he once rented a fully stocked ice cream truck for his birthday just to drive around and give away ice cream. David is the kind of person we should all strive to be, to find that little piece inside of ourselves that's like David. Jelly Belly jelly beans not starting over. Because of David, I do not purchase Jelly Belly jelly beans, and I wait for David's next paper plate idea so that we can all forget about the Jelly Belly jelly bean. At the end of the documentary, Wildau Yankovic states, "I never wondered who the creator of Jelly Belly jelly beans was. I just thought it was the Easter Bunny." Now you all know the story of David Klein and his magic bean. And I impose upon you to support David as well. In 2016, David started a Kickstarter program in order to launch his new jelly bean, a caffeine-infused, coffee-flavored jelly bean with 5 flavors, as he hopes to recreate the Jelly Belly and the love that he gave the world.